What is your most memorable story of petty revenge? I have a friend whose pumpkin fall display at the end of his driveway would be run over by the neighborhood jerk. Happened every year. My friend decided to put a stop to it. He withdrew money from his savings account so he would have enough to buy the largest pumpkin he could find, along with several large bags of Quikrete, filled that puppy up and made a real pretty display. The jackass broke the axle of his shoddy car when he hit that pumpkin, could not drive away. My friend had his car towed away, too. I lived in an apartment with a roommate. We had neighbors who would throw crazy parties pretty frequently, oftentimes during the week. One day my roommate, who had to be awake early, had enough and decided to piss on a metal pizza pan and stick it in the freezer. After a crazy party he pulled the pan out and flipped it upside down, giving him a frozen disc of piss. He then slid the disc under their door where it would melt on their fully carpeted entryway. Woke up to them shouting at the people who crashed there about who pissed on the floor or what the duck was wrong with them. Wish I could say they toned down their parties, but they did not and eventually got evicted. My brother-in-law did something to irritate my wife back when they were in high school. My wife turned off the TV, wrote "broken" on a piece of paper taped to the TV, shut off the power strip, and flipped the batteries around in the remote. Took my brother-in-law several days to figure it out. Went to a restaurant for brunch. Upon receiving my bill I noticed a $3 charge for table linen. As I was leaving I folded up the tablecloth. The waiter said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I paid for it, I am taking it home," and I did. I used to manage a Starbucks when one of my baristas asked a guy his name and he just flipped the duck out, belittling her, called her stupid etc. and didn't give a name. Anyway, I take over the handoff drinks and place his drink just on the handoff with no words. I will add it was a busy store with a lot of people waiting. I just keep putting drinks out for about 10-15 minutes and douchebag walks up and picks up his drink that's now lukewarm and goes, "Is this mine?" I just respond with, "I don't know, it doesn't have a name on it." Back in the late 90s I worked at Best Buy, and one Saturday a month we had to come in 3 hours before the store opened, so 7 a.m. for a mandatory all-store meeting where we watch the video from corporate, give out Employee of the Month awards, go over department goals, and the like. Well, there was a guy in our department, James, who was a pretty crappy worker and showed up to the meeting an hour late, and the manager took him aside and fired him. Well, apparently the manager did not watch him on his way out of the store, and he went into the break room and stuck his finger in every single donut they brought in for our break, so literally the only mild positive of getting up at 6 on Saturday was ruined. 20 years later and I still miss that donut. I caught my flatmate telling lies about me to some mutual friends. I made plans to move out the next month. In the meantime, she went out of town for a week, and left her car parked in its usual spot in the parking lot. I threw birdseed on it every morning and evening, so when she came home, the birds would not leave her car alone. At my previous job, we had separate refrigerators for the different shifts. Our food was constantly being stolen or messed with. One day, my buddy and I decided to make a nice cherry cheesecake out of cooking lard. We finished it off with graham cracker crust and cut a couple of slices out of it since we knew the thief wouldn't be brazen enough to take the first bite. We never found out who the thief was, but we never had to worry about anyone messing with our food ever again. Edit. We chose lard as a less harmful alternative to laxatives or the wrong type of pepper. That shit can be extremely dangerous. I doubt whoever tried our cherry cheesecake was even able to swallow a bite. I used to work doing stucco in East Texas. One guy just never paid us, so we spent a day tearing down everything we worked on. Another time, while working for a small machine shop, a customer kept dicking us around about paying for some work we did. Was all a walk-in job, paid half up front and would pay the rest at pickup. Well, he needed his part now and would pay us the remainder in a month or so. So, we cut his part in half and said we will give him the other half in a month or so. Lesson of the story: do not duck around with contractors. My college roommate had a bad habit of leaving her things in piles on our bathroom floor until there was almost no space to walk to the bath or toilet. Not just clothes but change, jewelry, decks of playing cards, knitting needles, books, hairpins, scarves, earbud headphones, keys, etc. One day she left 40 scattered with the mess, so I put the money in one of her lesser-used bathroom drawers. Originally I put it there to protect it from our third roommate and her friends. When I came home the next day and noticed that she was clearing her mess in an effort to find it, I decided not to tell her where the money was until our bathroom floor was spotless. Afterwards, I decided it would be too awkward to tell her the truth, so I left the money wadded up in her hamper as I did found it on the floor. She was ecstatic when she found it on laundry day. After that her bathroom piles never got quite as big. My friend in high school was such a drama queen, but it worked out hilariously sometimes. He was cut off by a driver who had no brake lights, and it pissed him off so badly that he followed until a cop was behind, merged around the guy and then brake checked him so the cop would see that he had no brake lights. The holler he let out when the cop pulled the other guy over is still one of the funniest moments of my life. Guy in an El Camino was aggressively tailgating me in the slow lane. On the highway, traffic was light so he could have passed easily. I am in a SUV, I see metal debris in the road ahead of me, I know I can clear it and do. He wasn't so lucky. My friend did some work for a guy who skipped his bill and never paid him. My friend is so petty he did many things, such as placed fake for sale ads with too good a deal like a nice boat for 1,000 and other numerous ads with the guy's number. Our city is big on garage sales. He posted ads like moving out sale, everything must go, cheap, will be held inside the house, just walk in or ring the doorbell, then put this guy's address on the ad. He also signed him up for numerous free gym memberships and responded to things like car dealership ads with this guy's phone number. He did a lot more. That's just what I can remember. I don't know who I feel more sorry for. Dated a guy and later found out he had another girlfriend. Messaged the other girlfriend on MySpace showing my age here and told her if she wanted to know the truth it would be better to hear it from him. So please call me and I will call him on three-way calling. She did and stayed totally quiet on the call while he tried to set up some sexy time with me for later that week. Finally I said I do not think I can do that, might have a problem with it, would not you? She finally chimed in with an "ope" and a "duck you" to him and he hung up in a panic, wished her luck. No idea how it turned out for them, but I blocked his sorry ass and still get a chuckle at the moment of pure fear we heard in the silence before he hung up. I used to go to this arcade and play a certain basketball game as my name indicates. I was climbing the all-time wins leaderboard in said game very close behind number 1 when one day my account vanishes. None of the other accounts do, and I learn that somehow the one wins player who works there had a hand in it. I waited until he played another game and watched as he put in his code for his initials account, then waited 30 minutes when he was done, logged into his account on that machine and tanked the game pretty hard. When I was done his record dropped to 210-1. Unfortunately I did not see his reaction, but I got way too much vengeance satisfaction from it. My husband, as a small child in school, was sick and the teacher would not let him go to the bathroom to throw up, so he went to her desk where she was sitting and threw up all over it instead. There is a new truck in my apartment's parking lot, always taking up multiple spots, always weird angles, close to the stairs, all over the place, no assigned parking unfortunately. Months of this. I drive a much smaller car than that, and I am petty passive aggressive. I have been waiting for my chance. A few days ago was my shot. I got home quite late and there were 0 spots open in my lot. Big truck is double parked again, but there is just enough room on their driver's side for me to sneak in there with my little clown car. I carefully pull in, making sure not to touch anything. No damage, no nothing. My passenger side mirror is half an inch from their driver's side door. I giggled to myself all the way back to my apartment and set an alarm and waited. The following morning I wake up before the alarm to loud door slamming and stomping around. I check out my window and I see the double parking culprit walking around both vehicles, taking pictures, texting someone, taking more pictures. I am shaking with glee. They then swallow their pride, let out a visual sigh, and climb in the passenger side, clamber over the center console, and Austin Powers 20 turn their butts out of the spot. I have never been so proud of myself and my shitty, petty, passive-aggressive ways. Edit. Today I learned that taking up multiple spots is technically not called double parking. Thanks y'all. Not me, but for my wife, when we were younger and kind of on hard times. She took a pretty shady job at a local factory. The first 2 weeks she was there, she had her lunch stolen at least 5 or 6 times, even open drinks. I was pretty pissed. A lot of times I would grill for her or make her lunch, and she was going hungry. One night I bought a big-ass Gatorade and a box of those women's laxatives, both red in color. Could not tell the two were mixed, but we found out who the thief was. In response to an admittedly pretty good practical joke, I hid 7 battery-powered alarm clocks in the perpetrator's room, set them to go off one by one roughly every 40 minutes between 2 and 6 a.m. Last one was hid in the ceiling. I wear hearing aids, and a girl in my math class when I was in HS used to make fun of me. I had not said 2 words to her. I gave her no reason to do it. She was just being an evil cunt. I recording her mocking my hearing loss on my phone and played it for her parents. They took the new car they just bought her back to the dealership. I've told this one before, but it makes me happy to retell it. I had a boss 7-8 years ago whom I hated. She was the fakest and most entitled person I had ever met. One day, she decided that she didn't like the smell of microwave popcorn, so she waved her magic office wand and had it banned. Fast forward a month or so. I was browsing Amazon and found one of those USB sticks that emits a smell when plugged in. The smell of buttered popcorn. I bought it, plugged it into the back of her computer, and she had the sweet smell of Pop Secret in her office for 6 fucking months. She complained almost every day. It's the sweetest revenge I've ever tasted. My brother did something to annoy his then-girlfriend, so she took the labels off all his canned food tins in the cupboards. Are you opening a tin of beans, or a tin of tomato sauce, or cat food? Kinda hilarious. When I was in law school I went to a bar with a bunch of law school students and decided I wanted a cig. I went outside and a whole bunch of girls are smoking. I don't like to bump cigarettes, but I had a free small fry coupon from McDonald's. I offered it to the girl if she would give me a cigarette. She said okay. I handed it to her, and then she wouldn't give me a cigarette. She said you shouldn't be so trusting. Flash forward a few months, and I am the head guy for the IT for a division in our university, which includes administration. I went up to replace a computer and saw the same girl. She was waiting in line for a job interview. I went up to the person who was conducting the interviews. I was their IT person too, and told them the story. She didn't get the job. An uncle of mine was a serious drug addict and an all-around asshole. When I was a kid it was pretty common for him to steal from my grandparents, including a lot of things they intended to give me when I was older, a coin collection, things like that. There is a long list of things he did over the course of my life to piss me off. But I will skip to the petty revenge. I was browsing the local county website and noticed there was a section for active warrants. I wondered if any familiar names were listed, so I browsed it, and to my complete lack of surprise, I saw my uncle's name listed for something minor. Then I saw the Crime Stoppers number at the top of the page. I knew where he was living at the time and it was anonymous. So what the heck? I called, described him and told them where he was. They gave me a reference number and told me to call back in 2 weeks. For the sake of being thorough, I called a relative from the other side of the family who, funny enough, was not only a cop but also in charge of following up on these things. I told him the situation and he said he had prioritized it. 2 weeks later I called Crime Stoppers for an update and they said the tip did indeed lead to an arrest and asked which post office I preferred. I was confused but I named one. They gave me an alias, told me to give that name to the clerk and there would be a general delivery envelope with $200 cash inside. That part was unexpected but a sweet bonus for sure. Easiest $200 I ever made. In elementary school a kid decided to purposefully pee himself after the teacher told him he had to wait until after the test to use the restroom. I do not know if that counts though, because he ended up troubling himself a lot more than he did the teacher. Grounded yet again by my angry dad for breathing whilst his ball game was on, I was stuck in my bedroom bored witless. For something to do I flicked the light switches on and off. Pre-mobile era folks. We had to make our own fun. It was then I discovered that this made a loud buzzing static interference on the TV in the lounge. Cue the next 5 years of petty revenge. Angry dad never figured out why we had such a bad TV signal at game time. He never connected it with me being sent to my room and flicking the light switch every few minutes, reveling as he yelled futilely at the static dancing across the TV. When I rented, the parking lot was assigned parking. My wife and I both had cars, so I had to pay extra for the extra spot. First one was complimentary. We come home around 1 a.m. and some idiot is parked in my spot, not having it, and not wanted to deal with an overnight parking ban on the street. I park behind him perpendicularly to block him in my spot. My neighboring spot was my caretaker's, who was the chillest guy I have ever rented from. Shot him a text explaining and to call me if he needed out before me in the morning. He laughed and said all was good. After about an hour of watching TV I go out for a smoke. Notice this guy's car is running. I watch him frantically at 2 a.m. looking around for whose car it is. He sees me and starts bitching about it, not knowing it is mine. Says he just wants to go home and does not understand why some people got to be such assholes. I tell him maybe the owner of the car was mad 'cause you were in his spot. Told him some people pay extra monthly for another spot. He gives up and goes back into his buddy's unit. I go to inside and go to bed. Come out in the morning to go out for a bit. Guy is sitting on his buddy's doorstep. I wave and get in my car and leave. Made that asshole sit trapped all night till 9 a.m. The look on his face as I entered my car was priceless. Went to a restaurant for lunch during a work shift. Out of 3 parking spots somebody decided to park across every single one. There were no other parking spots at the time, so I decided to park within half a foot from my passenger side to his driver door, ordered and got my food, and noticed an older 60-plus man leave and walk in the direction of our parked cars. When I left and walked towards my car, sure enough he was there, tray of drinks in one hand and a bag of food in the other, just absolutely struggling to get into his vehicle. He called out about why I parked like this and my only reply was, why did you park across 3 spots? Park like and ass, you better expect to be treated like one. Consider subscribing if you enjoyed this video and if you want to see more of Reddit Universe.